I mean, I just didn't know anything. I didn't know which way. If you put me at a point in the city, I didn't know where the east, west, north, south. I couldn't get my bearings in any way.
Hello, and welcome to the Oral Tradition Podcast. I'm your host, Zeppy Chang, and in today's inaugural episode, we'll be interviewing Kevin Merrit, a professor at Louisiana Tech. Here on the Oral Tradition, our goal is to bring the interesting stories of everyday people to an audience that will receive them. This is the unedited podcast version of these stories. Stay tuned for the animated individual shorts, which will be coming out on this channel in a short amount of time, or may already be there if you're listening sometime in the future. As one of my favorite YouTubers likes to say, I got for you guys a real hoot and a real holler. So, Mr. Merrit, let's dive in. Can we get a little bit about your background? Anything we need to know considering the stories you're going to tell today?
I would say just about my own background. I'm from Seattle. I'm not from a very, I would say, religious part of the country. So some of the things that we did, it seems like when I tell these stories in class, people might be a little bit disgusted with. They don't seem normal. From the feedback that I'm getting from students, they don't seem normal, and they seem very normal to me at the time. It's just what you did as a kid. So, background-wise, I went to high school in Seattle, and I went to a four-year university in Bellingham, Washington. That was, it was a kind of a different environment than maybe a lot of universities in the country. It had a real hippie population, which these were hippies from the 60s. So this is 1982. I was in college. So they were not going to graduate ever. That was their goal. So they were going to keep taking out loans and never have to pay them back if they stayed in school. So that was their plan. They were professional students. So that was a part of the population. And then another part of the population, we had a smaller, I'd say, Asian population, where there were some people that I don't know what the better term for them is now, the PC term for these Asian folks that floated across the ocean in a boat, and we at that time just said they were boat people. But these people had come over and learned the language and gotten themselves into university. So there was these kind of wealthy kids that were Microsoft offspring. There were Trident Nuclear kids. There were Boeing employees' kids, and so it was kind of a draw from a lot of white collar, it was a kind of a unique combination of people at this school. But so after I graduated from there, I went to I piddled around for a while. I lived in a condominium on the beach in San Diego for a while, for about 6 months for free. And then I lived, and every once in a while I would get a job and then get fired from the job. And then I lived, after that, I went to Japan and I worked there for a couple of years and lived in Tokyo teaching English. And that was sort of the first time I realized this is what I want to do for the rest of my life is teach, because I don't watch the clock and I don't think about payday. I just I enjoy the job, and that stuff will take care of itself. So I did that for a couple of years, and then came back to graduate school at Oklahoma State, and then what did I do after that? I went back to Japan for a year, this time in a little different situation, being married and living in a small town in Japan. I did that for a year, and then I came to Louisiana Tech University with the help of the Japanese Mafia. So
whoa, I want to hear that story.
So the Japanese Mafia at that time they employed Middle Eastern guys to work at the train stations and sell stuff, typically phone cards that had been manipulated, so you could call anywhere in the world for about a 10th or a 20th of the price that it would normally cost you. So I, of course, participated in some illegal activities and bought these cards and was just calling people whose phone numbers I remembered. And one of them was a guy that I been to graduate school with, and he'd gone on to get his PhD, and he was just getting a job at Louisiana Tech, and he said he told me that he thought another person was leaving. I should try to get that job, and I thought it would be better to go back to the States and be employed instead of go back to the States and be looking for work. So I've been here for the last 21 years or something like that. That's a long time. It is a long time.
It's longer than I've been alive.
I planned when I got to Ruston, I planned to be here for a year. Mm-hmm. And I think like a lot
21 years later.
Yeah, 21 years later, I'm still here. Yeah. So I'm getting ready to plan the next stage. Retirement could be as early as 2 or 3 years away if I want to retire at 55. Just that I'm going to have to make a whole lot more money than so I'll probably be 59, but that's fine. I like my job, so it's good.
So tell me a little bit about the time you spent in Japan. I've heard some of the interesting stories, but let's do the highlights first, and then get into the nitty-gritty details.
Well, like a lot of people that graduated from college with a liberal arts degree, I don't know that I was particularly responsible, or I was still really immature, and I decided on the advice of a friend to go to Japan. He said, I've worked there, a good friend of mine, I worked there for the last couple of years, and you should come over there. Well, I didn't end up seeing him, but I took his advice and bought a ticket, and I don't know any Japanese at this point at all. I don't know anything about Japanese culture, never studied it in high school or college. And I don't know why, I just decided I'd do that. So I bought a ticket, and I quit my job that wasn't any kind of job anyway, but I quit that job and I went over to Japan. I didn't have a job going over there, so I went over there, and as soon as I got off the airplane, and probably a little before that, I just had a very sinking feeling like, this is not a good idea. What are you doing? I was asking myself, and then I had trouble getting out of the airport. They kept asking me if I wanted a limousine, and I was like, no, I want to take the bus, and kept trying to sell me a limousine ticket. Finally, I found out that the company that runs the buses is actually named Limousine. So I finally got myself out of the airport to downtown Tokyo, and my friend had told me about a house that all these foreigners lived in. So I went there and stayed there for a couple weeks, and I really was at that point very homesick, and culture shock was, I just didn't know anything. I didn't know which way. If you put me at a point in the city, I didn't know where the east, west, north, south. I couldn't get my bearings in any way. So about a week went by, and I decided I was making a reservation to go back home. So I made the reservation for about 2 weeks from that point. And I just sort of half-heartedly tried to find a job. And they have a newspaper written in English, the Japan Times. And so I looked in there, and I found a couple. You have to, the address. All that is foreign. And so you have to get on the right train, get off at the right stop, try to understand what's being said over the system in the subway or the train to figure out what stop you're getting off. So then you get off at your stop, and then it's like, okay, now which way do I go? So luckily the person at the office had given me some instructions. So I go to this place and this school, and the guy who interviews me is a British guy, and we seemed to sort of hit it off, and he hired me, which I don't know, felt like some sort of miracle or something. But as soon as the first day of work rolled around, I was out of money too. I had to get them to advance my paycheck because I was eating rice and peanuts. That's what I was eating. That's all I could afford for like 2 weeks. And I hadn't spoken to anybody in English. I hadn't had a conversation with anybody. That was a weird experience. So I get this job, and it's probably in the second day of the job, the homesickness went away, and I really felt sort of comfortable. There were all kinds of people from everywhere around the world working there. It was probably a faculty of like 15, but people from South Africa and Ireland and England and Hong Kong, and it was really a great place to land for me. But there were so many strange experiences, so many things that I probably, some things I can't even talk about. Were so weird and probably awfully graphic. I can't even say, but that just were occurring. One of the things when I was first there, some students had took me to a district called Kabukucho, which
is that the Love Hotel district?
Yeah, it's kind of like the red light district.
The red light district.
Yeah, if there is such a thing in Japan.
I think I've seen it. I've seen it in anime.
Yeah, and you don't.
And there's like neon signs everywhere.
Yeah,
and it's dark.
And they have businesses like Soapland, which is supposedly no prostitution occurring, and if it is, it's not Japanese people. It's people they have from other countries staying there on I don't know what kind of visa, but entertainment visa or something, I think. Anyway, so and Kabukicho doesn't even feel dangerous. You don't feel like
Japan it's hard to feel dangerous.
Yes, in Japan. It doesn't feel like you're even in the most sketchy part of Japan. It's still not that sketchy, and you just don't feel.
Compared to like
dangerous.
The Bronx.
Or Detroit or something. Yeah. No, this is like. So there wasn't that element but there was this element of just odd tastes that people have in a red light district that is in Japan. There was, they sell everything in vending machines. You can find them. Yeah, and we passed this one vending machine, and I couldn't tell what was in it, and I asked the students like, what is that? And they didn't want to tell me, and I'm like, come on, you got to tell me. And so one person took me aside and said, it is high school girls' underwear. I'm like, why would they shop for their underwear here? They're like, no. High school
girls aren't the ones buying it.
It's used underwear. Like, like there's old guys that buy that stuff? Oh, yeah. Wow, that is, you don't see that. You definitely don't see that. And then, everywhere I went, they're just, everybody, they either want to challenge you in something like singing or skiing, or they want to buy you a lot of drinks, a lot of beers, or they are very generous. To the point where you almost say, this is too much. You guys are too nice. There's no way I can ever repay you. And there was I spent a lot of time there thinking about, how could I ever repay you? So my parents, I tell my students, if you go to the U.S., you got to, go to Seattle, you stay at my parents' house. So my parents probably hosted 12, 15 students over the time that I was in Japan, which I didn't volunteer my generosity. I just I let that obligation fall on my parents. But anyway, oh boy, and they would have the company where I worked would have parties every so often, probably every couple of months. They would have a different thing, like wine and cheese party and I thought, okay, I'm working for a company. I better, I'll have a few sips of whatever and behave myself. But I did not turn it. It was not like that at all. I mean, you're talking people that are about 120 pounds on average, maybe. Maybe that's on the high end for guys, maybe 120 pounds. And they get a couple of beers or a couple of glasses of wine. I mean, they will ask you, inhibitions fall away, and they will ask you anything, and just crazy stuff happened. And I thought, man, somebody's going to get fired. No, I mean, you go to work the next day, and it's just business as usual. I found that really refreshing. Work hard, party hard, go back to work. It was great. There's really something that American companies could learn from that. And just the kind of team building that takes place when these guys go out and they get all their grievances out. They drink a bunch. They get all their grievances out. They yell at each other or whatever they want to do. And then the next day it's like, oh, man, yeah, I drank too much. Oh, I did too. Oh, we had a great time. And everything's better. You don't have somebody coming into the post office, a disgruntled worker after 8 years and shooting everybody. It's like, we got all that out of our system when we went out drinking. So, they were big on the parties and the drinking and the celebrations and the which was great. I'm a 25-year-old kid at that point. I mean, I'm like, this is great. This is exactly what I wanted. I mean, I learned a lot there, but some of the other crazy things that would happen. I had a roommate from Montreal who was a hockey player, and keeping tabs on that guy was very difficult. He asked to borrow my briefcase one of the first days he became. I didn't know him before this. He became my roommate. And he was there for one day, and he asked to borrow my briefcase. And I just gotten this briefcase in Hong Kong, and I really liked the briefcase, although I probably wasn't going to use it much, but it was nice. Well, he borrowed my briefcase to go to a job interview and came back about 10:30, 11 at night, stinking drunk. There was yelling outside, and I didn't know what that was. And he and the cab driver were in a fight about paying, and he said he didn't have any money. I don't know why he took a cab if he didn't have any money. He said he didn't have any money, so they got in a big argument. Then he came back to the house, and he said, hey, you got any money for the cab? I'm like, I've known you for one day. You want money for the... So I said, I don't have cash right now, but here's this bucket full of laundry money. So he took the laundry money out there, probably about $40 in coins or $50 or more than that. Then he poured it all in the cab. The guy yelled some more, and then he came back in, and the next day I asked him, hey, where's my briefcase? And he said, oh, man, I left it in the cab. Like, this is not going well so far. I don't know. Anyway, he turned out to be a really great guy. I mean, he was really a great roommate. And he was, as wild as hockey players are, he was that kind of wild. And he'd probably meet 15 new people a day, just because he was so outgoing and so boisterous. And he ended up getting really great jobs. I mean, he ended up working at a hospital with a bunch of surgeons and, people that just wanted to learn to speak conversational English, wanted to speak English conversationally. And he became the guy. So, and those were really good paying jobs. I mean, back in 1989, $75 an hour for a kid that age. I mean, that was a lot, that got to be quite a bit of money.
Yeah, it's like, $120 an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah.
Nice.
I mean, it was a lot of money, and living there, you don't have to pay health care because you're covered by national health care. You don't pay taxes because you're a foreigner. You don't pay taxes in the U.S. because if you're out of the country for 320 days, you don't have to pay taxes. So, and you don't have a car. You're living in Tokyo, so and your company pays for your lunch and they pay for your train pass. So you have, and a lot of times, companies will pay for your housing as well. They didn't for us, but I mean, we had a lot of disposable income for people that age, and you can buy yourself into a lot of interesting situations. We went to we took not all the students, but we took a group of students. Another teacher and I took a group of students to the amusement park, and we talked to people into letting us in for free, and there were vending machines with beer in them in the amusement park, so we were taking beers on all the rides, and they were having to stop the rides because we were drinking beers on the rides, and I just boy, talk about a perfect job for me at that time. I mean, it was great. It was, and I really liked. I mean, there's probably, over that whole time, there probably wasn't but one or two people that I didn't really connect with or get along with. Most everybody was just Japanese people, very gracious, and kind, and good, really good hosts. But I'm trying to think of some other situations where after that amusement park episode, all the teachers and all of the students were meeting at a certain izakaya, a bar, big bar. We're all meeting back there. Student groups have gone on different trips, and by that time, I had way too much to drink, and there was a wedding party, like a reception party, in another part of the restaurant. And I wandered in there, and I got in there, and I started eating their food, and they had, oh man, I don't know why I didn't get fired from this. In fact, there was two guys that had been working there for a long time, and they told me, they said, oh, what was her name? Yasuko. What was it? She had kind of a funny name. It wasn't a typical Japanese name, but she was our boss. Oh, she's really angry at you. Oh no, I like this job. I need to go talk to her. She had no idea what had happened. Those guys were just setting me up, so I went in there and apologized to the boss for something that she had no idea that happened. That wasn't. That was terrible. But there, if you wanted to get into wild behavior, you could do it any night of the week in Tokyo. There's no concept of a weekend really, other from maybe a salary man getting the day off on Sunday. There's no real feel of a week. Every day is just going fast, and it was that was a really being that distance away from home really sort of gave me a perspective on what's important in life. How do people see the U.S. around the world? I don't know that we're really the best country. I mean, it's a good place to live. Obviously, we both live here,
yes.
but we're not infallible. There's definitely.
Although most people like to think America is
yeah, it's great. We're gonna make America great again. Yeah. Maybe that was true after World War II, but I mean, there's probably still plenty of people around the world after World War II that hated America. So, it's interesting to travel abroad and to hear the negative about your country.
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't till I moved to Japan and read a Japanese newspaper printed in English. I had no idea that how many people died in Vietnam. How many Vietnamese people died? I had no idea. I knew 50,000 Americans did, but Vietnamese? It was 3.2 million Vietnamese died.
Woo.
I had no idea. I don't, and a lot of that stuff, it's just America doesn't really.
Right.
broadcast
Yeah. No, that's
that kind of
because it's so lopsided. Because America's technology is just.
It's just.
I mean.
And according to Japanese textbooks, Pearl Harbor was not a surprise attack.
Right.
Yeah, and it just.
Or obviously, Pearl Harbor from the Japanese perspective. That's interesting.
Yes, much different, and it happened on a different day. I mean, just because of the time.
Right. The time differences.
Right, the time difference. But they're December 6th or 8th. I can't remember which one they say, but we would say the 7th. Right? So I just thought that was kind of interesting. And that was Tokyo. But the second time I went back, I was married, and my wife and I were the only white people in this town of 90,000. So, I mean, that was, school kids following you, just yelling out any American word they know, English word they know, cheeseburger, whatever they would say. The construction workers every morning doing their morning exercises to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and then have somebody the foreman of the whole job gets on there and just yells at them for like 20 minutes. And so that's what I woke up to every morning for that year was the high-rise apartment buildings they were building next door, and this crew of guys. But we worked for a little. I was supposed to be teaching communication, but at a branch campus of Oklahoma State University, but that didn't work out because Japanese students really want to go to a Japanese university in Japan. I mean, they want to go to, and Japanese employers want students from Japanese universities. They don't really know what to do with a person that has a degree from an American university. That person sort of has to prove what they're doing first. So, so Japanese parents kind of hesitant, and Japanese college students kind of hesitant to go to an American university if they're thinking about the future. If they're thinking long range, and I mean, even here at Tech, there's probably 3 Japanese students. I mean, there's 100 and 200 plus students from China,
from the Middle East,
from India, and other Middle Eastern countries, but really not that many Japanese students. So I think that sort of tells a tale that Japanese people are really loyal to and understand, and they're very future oriented. I mean, kids are able to think about the long term. You want to get into the right kindergarten, so you can get into the right elementary school.
Yeah,
so
I've heard about the Japanese education system.
It's
like a conveyor belt. You just
go, it's very, you probably the most pressure is a I don't. There's a lot of pressure in being a regular student in Japan because you go to school from you go to school 6 days a week, Saturday's a half day, and you go. Your school's probably about the same we are, 8 to 3 or whatever, But after that,
Cram
you go
school,
to cram
right?
school.
Yeah.
You go to a juku for 5 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't, I mean, basically, from the time you're in first grade, you've got a full-time job that you're working 12 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is it's an incredible work ethic, but it just makes for a very interesting, and it just seems like they have 100% employment. I guess, your female part of your population doesn't work after they get married, so
right. Mm-hmm.
that leaves a few jobs open. But
Mm-hmm.
it seems like everybody who wants a job has a job in Japan,
Mm-hmm.
and they're proud of their job. Everybody seems to take pride in the job, whatever you're doing. If it's custodial work, you showed loyalty and pride to your company, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just an interesting place. A lot of those things I wish we could learn here in the States, but so what? I'm trying to think of other things about.
So tell me a little bit more about. I liked your story about the underpants machine. Tell me a little bit more about like what kind of weird fetishes, what kind of weird stuff you saw there. Because
man, they have on the each train line
mm-hmm.
and each subway line has its different sort of identifiable characteristics that Japanese people seem to all know. I mean, I would just say, oh, one train's like the next, but there's a culture that goes with each train and each subway.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll say, oh, this subway has a lot of perverts on it, a lot of skebe.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that's interesting is that they'll have train car will just be slam packed full of people. And there's be a hand that goes through like 3 or 4 people, and you don't know where it's coming from, and it's grabbing you, and you're like, you can't sort of get away from me because you don't have anywhere to go, and you're just stuck there. And I saw one time a girl who, she looked Japanese,
Mm-hmm.
but she had grown up in the States, and she was there studying martial arts.
Mm-hmm.
And so some skebe, pervert guy, had run his hand through and was grabbing her. Now, when the train doors opened, she lit that guy up and started yelling at him and started throwing kicks at him. And he's just like a salary man,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't know what to do. Like, this is what, and she's yelling at him in English, and he's like, oh my gosh, I hope he didn't go home and commit suicide or something, because it was just like, typically if a pervert grabs a Japanese girl, she just tries to move into the corner and she's just bringing it, like being a victim is bringing shame on yourself or something. And anyway, this girl did not have any of that kind of reaction.
She was American.
Yes. And to that guy's dismay, to the Japanese guy's dismay. So there's that on the train car, and then there's like you'll go running up to this crowded train, you think, oh my gosh, there's an empty seat.
Mm-hmm.
And you go over there and you look, and it's usually a pile of barf. Somebody's had too much to drink and barfed in the seat, and you're like, oh man. When I was coming home from work one time, and they have Christmas, they get a bonus in the summer, a cash bonus. Your work company gives you a cash bonus in the winter and in the summer. So I'm riding the train home from work, and this guy who's been drinking has a lot of his Christmas bonus rolled up like a cigarette behind his ear. And he starts pretending like, hey, I'm Michael Jackson, and he starts doing this, like trying to sing like Michael Jackson. And then he looks me in the eye and says, I am sorry for World War II. Okay, all right, that's fine. And then he gives me about $200 in cash. He gave me 20,000 yen.
Reparations, 40
Yeah,
years.
reparations. Yeah.
Reparations.
Yes. Yeah, reparations. And is there ever going to be... I kind of felt like giving it back to him, but then I thought, is there ever going to be a time when somebody hands me $200 cash for nothing? For
World War II.
For World War II. And so it wasn't my train stop, but I got out at the next stop so he wouldn't sober up and ask for his money back, because I'd had to give it to him then. And I got off the train. That train went by, 5 minutes. Another train comes and you can just get on that one. So that's what I did. And that worked out. He got a Christmas bonus, and I got a World War II Christmas bonus.
World War II reparation.
Yeah, I got some reparations. But it's so nice to travel by train and not have to commute. I mean, you can read a book, you can do, it's just, talk to the person without having to keep your eyes on the road or concentrate or whatever. And it's really, that's really a big benefit. And the Shinkansen, the bullet train is cool. It's expensive, but it's pretty cool to ride if you go over there. And I don't know if they still do this, but if you're visiting on a tourist visa, before you get over to Japan, you can buy a ticket. It's a Japanese rail pass, and you can ride any train at any time. So you can ride the bullet train wherever you want. That's like, just a short trip on that thing could be $250, $300. So, that's if anybody ever goes there, buy the Japan rail pass. If they still sell it, man, that's a great deal. Right, any train, and buses too. I don't know who wants to go on the bus. Right. So, the train. Oh, the at Christmas is like.
It's the couple's day, right?
It's the couple's day. That's right. Day. Yes, and it's at one particular shopping mall, which is vertical, so it's got escalators, 7 stories of escalators, 8 stories, or however tall it was, 15, I don't know. But at the top of each escalator, the top of each section of escalator, there was a Japanese girl, very nice, very attractive, holding a serving plate, or sort of a silver tray with beer samples. so all the way up this thing, you could taste a different beer up the escalator. And that was before microbrews and all the beer tasting became popular in the States. That was before Starbucks really hit it, going. So the coffee shops and the beer ideas that they had were really cool. You could just ride up and down the escalators all day at the shopping mall and drink if you wanted to.
It's like a Japanese Costco.
Yeah. And instead of sample of a pig in a blanket, you're getting
sample of beer.
Yeah, it was nice. And then you don't have to drive when you leave the mall. You just get on the train. So, and they. They had at a Christmas time, of course, that was for couples, and they have something called White Day.
Yeah, I've heard of White Day. It's the return for Valentine's Day. It's
right, and so Valentine's Day happens just to be for men. So
men get the chocolate from the girls on Valentine's Day,
right, and
then they return the favor,
and they also get Giri Choco, is that the name of it? Like obligation chocolate. So people that feel they have to, they don't really want to give you a gift, but they feel like they have to give you a gift. So you get some chocolate from it. You get the Giri Choco, which is obligation chocolate, and you get, you might get a pair of socks and dating over there was an interesting thing. Dating was really nice because you would go out on a date and they would give you, the girl meets you. If you're a guy, meets you meet, and they give you a small gift. which is pretty customary. So you might get a pair of socks or a tie or something like that. And then you go out to dinner, and you don't pour your own beer. You pour each other's, really, but they do just really refined culture. So they know all kinds of everything about table manners, and they act very tactfully and classy, and they bring you a gift, and then if things go well, you might go for a walk somewhere. And I thought it was really funny, around the 1968 Olympic Stadium that's in Tokyo, they have, couples sitting around this low wall way around the perimeter of the stadium, and there's exact even spacing between each couple. It's probably like 15 feet exactly between each couple all the way around. Very organized. But what was funny about doing that, kissing is sort of a Western concept. So there are, now that they've been exposed to Hollywood and everything, the Japanese people have been exposed to Hollywood, but it's still not really. I was surprised, like, there were a number of dates where you sort of had, they wanted to do that, but you had to teach them how to do that. It was really a weird position to be in, and the innocence that they have is so refreshing. I mean, it's like being naive is kind of the angle that you want to be there. Here, it's like, by the time I'm 12, I want to know everything there is to know. I'm not going to be caught off guard. There, it's like, no, I would rather be innocent, and I would rather be, and it's so, I don't know, just pleasant, and it's, I don't in a culture where you don't have a strong concept of sin, you have more of a concept of, and you don't have a real concept of guilt. You have more of a concept of obligation. It's weird to be dating. It's weird to be working. It's and it's refreshing to be in a culture where it's not always good versus evil. It's well, drinking is just something you do. It's not good or it's not bad. It's just something you do. So, dating was and there was a district that you could go there called Harajuku. I don't know if that's ever come up in any of the stuff that you read. Or
I think it sounds familiar, but
Harajuku is it's a district for young people, and it's for all kinds of whacked out clothing styles, or I'm not sure if they bring those crazy cars there that they'll have with those huge, like, pipes on them and all kinds of crazy stuff. But they have lots of weird bands. They have lots of people in different kinds of, their dress, the way they dress is their hobby, kind of. And so there's like these rockabilly people, and there's, 50s kind of looking people, and there's, it's so, I mean, you could spend days there going up and down the street looking at people watching. It's probably the best place on earth for people watching. But anyway, Harajuku, the other thing that they used to, some of the TV shows were, before we had these reality shows, they had stuff they had a show called Mr. Lady, which was, they took a normal kid, like a college kid or something. They sent him out on a date with a beautiful girl, and then at the end of the date, this is not really a lady, this is a man. The poor guy, and they had these shows that would be considered rated probably pretty heavily R here. The 11 p.m. show, which was actually at 10. I don't know why it was called the 11 p.m. show, or was it at 12? I don't remember, but it wasn't at 11 p.m. and they would just have like it was a talk show, but you would have a panel of people because it's a group-oriented culture. So you don't have an individual interviewing people. You have a group of people interviewing somebody, and they had sort of a person representing each stereotype in Japan. So there'd be like this girl in a bikini sitting there on the panel. There'd be a guy who's like Mr. Brainiac or something. He's some sort of professor or something. He's on the panel. Then they have some sort of celebrity on the panel, and they have and they would, oh man, they would talk about all kinds of weird stuff. And I mean, you might turn that show on and you're watching hippopotamuses procreate or something. I mean, you never, and I don't know, I didn't speak enough Japanese to know what the conversation is about that, but they're having this huge long-winded, 10, 15-minute conversation about the hippos. I don't know what they're saying, but yeah, that show was pretty interesting. And then the not in a perverted sense, but in a unique sense, the Japanese movies and Japanese soap operas, not so much soap operas, but movies and maybe TV shows, how American shows always seem to want to end on a happy note. In Japan, it always ended on a sad note. It was like, these people are in love, but they will never see each other. The end. Or, somebody dies or somebody, and that's the end of the show. It was, and then when I came back and I watched American films, or I rented American films over there, man, I had no interest in a happy ending. I'm like, man, that's not realistic. I mean, come on, that doesn't happen. Yes, everything, it was either opposite or different. Almost anything you could think of was that way. So, yeah, that was Japan was a very crazy place for me. But at the same time, I learned a lot about people who were just genuinely kind. They had they were totally altruistic. They had no ulterior motive. I'd never experienced that before. And it was great. I mean, so I learned a lot over there, besides just causing trouble and doing weird things. I mean, it definitely was.
So I want to hear more about the antics of the hockey player.
Oh man. Oh jeez. Well, we called him Skates because he's Irish. He speaks French fluently. He's from Quebec, and his name was Kevin Merrit, which is very close to Kevin Merrit, especially if you're a Japanese person. So we had to come up with a nickname for him. So he was Skates. So he became Skates. And, oh my gosh. He, after work one day, Skates and I met some girls on the train. And we asked them if they would like to come to our apartment and cook dinner for us. Just out of the blue, don't know them. They thought that would be a great idea. So they came to our apartment and we had stuff. And they made us dinner. And, of course, we had to have some beer. And there's a whiskey vending machine right at the bottom stairs of our condominium or apartment, whatever it was. And so one thing led to another. And Skates, and then we had a third roommate named Phil, and so Skates and Phil were fighting over this one girl, and Skates with the hockey player, I mean, he didn't think twice about just peeling all his clothes off and running around. I mean, I don't know why that was a thing for him, but that's what he did sometimes. Anyway, so Skates and Phil are kind of fighting over this, not fighting, but they're jockeying for position with this girl, and Phil sort of won out, and we all slept in a loft, like right next to each other. Like my futon, our futons were all. We slept like right next to each other in this loft.
Yeah, I think that's typical Japanese.
Yes,
yeah.
and well, for us though, it was sort of
right.
So there's one girl up there with me, and there's a girl up there with Phil, and Skates is up there. Why he's up there in the first place, I don't know. But so Phil and Skates are still kind of at each other verbally. And then it quiets down for a minute, and then all of a sudden I feel a body like crawling across, but Skates has stripped himself down at this point. And then he gets in a fist fight with Phil, where there's really not much room to have a fist fight in the first place. And Skates has got Phil against the wall in a chokehold, screaming at him that I killed, and he's joking, of course. I killed a man in Philadelphia for this one time. I don't know why he said that, but that's what he said. And the girls screaming, and run down the stairs and get their stuff, and they're out the door, and all three of us are sitting there like, it happened within like 30 seconds. We're all sitting there like, what just happened? Where did our evening go? What happened? And then, but Skates and Phil, they continue to have a little animosity toward each other. There was just that was and what else did Skates do? Skates, we had all of our, and we had as many students as we could fit in our apartment. It was just everywhere in the bathroom, and people were just crammed in there, shoulder to shoulder. And Skates had about a half a bottle of tequila he drank. Of course, he took off all his clothes, and he was running around, and people are screaming, and then he cleared that party out in a matter of 15 minutes. Just this white guy he was so white that he was nearly green, and his figure was like this pear-shaped. He had such a strong lower body and really not much upper body, but this strong lower body from playing hockey. It was like this flesh-colored green pear running through your apartment, and people are just scattering because they don't know what to do. But then, when we go back, and he worked at a place where I worked for about 2 months before he found another high-paying job. He went to this place, and students loved to talk about him. Oh my God! Oh, Skates! What are you? And he was this kind of. He got to be this bigger in life character with this big, hey, how are you doing? And he'd come in, and they'd all Skates, tell us about this, or talk to us about that. And, why did you become naked? I don't know. I just grew up that way. And he'd just start spouting off stuff that wasn't true. My parents kept me out in the cold in the driveway for punishment when I was little. And then, really? It was terrible. He was very... There was always something going on with that guy. And he went up north so he could play in a hockey league. So he goes up north and plays for this hockey team, and he's always shooting goals where they say, it's top shelf or whatever, this shooting at the goalie's head. Well, in Japan, you don't do that in hockey. It's a little more gentlemanly than that. So when he would shoot the puck and it would go zinging by the goalie's head, or the goalie, all the crowd would go, oh, there'd be like this big gasp from the crowd. And he stayed with a family up there, and this family, they had They had one boy. I think they had one boy that was about 6th grade and one boy that was about 9th grade or something. Maybe the kid was like 4th grade and 8th grade, something like that. And he was always goofing around. I mean, he was, he'd hang them out the window by their feet or something. I mean, and these kids just thought it was the greatest thing. And he had a videotape of his last day when he was coming back to Tokyo. He'd stayed up there for a few months playing hockey with his family. Stayed up there. And he's got this video, and the whole family is crying. The whole family's crying because he's leaving. They're not going to see him again. And these are people that generally don't show a lot of emotion outwardly. And the poor 4th grade kid, the littlest boy, he looks like he needs to be hospitalized. He's so sad that it's like torture that Skates is leaving. So, while Skates was a really obnoxious guy, I mean, he really had a good heart and he was really good with kids and he got into all different kinds of stuff. And then, did I tell you about the time he called me from the police station?
I think so, but
where he was at a ramen cart after the train stopped running at like 1 a.m, and a Yakuza guy had been obviously drinking, and Skates had been drinking, and this guy wanted to shake his hand, but at the last minute, at the last second, Skates pulls his hand away and just like runs it across the side of his head, like and the Japanese Yakuza guy, well, he was just incensed. I mean, he was really mad. And he went away for a few minutes, but he came back with a case of Japanese beer bottles, the big liter Japanese beer bottles, and smashed them over Skates' head. And, I mean, he had 40 or 50 stitches. And then Skates' hockey buddies chased this guy down and just beat the pulp out of this guy. And then they all went to the police station. And I don't know how that story ever got straight with Skates in there and his hockey buddies, but they were free to go. But he did call me he called me at 4 a.m. to just, because he demanded one phone call. I don't know what movie he used to watch where you demand one phone call. So he got his phone call, which I don't, and he called me at the apartment, and I said, where are you? What are you doing? Oh, down at the cop shop, got hit with a case of beer bottles right over the head. And oh, that's terrible. You need me to do? No, just calling you. Well, what? How can you call me? I got one free phone call. I'm making sure I use it. Oh, well, that's great. Okay, well, I'll see you in the morning. Okay, bye. He came home, and sure enough, man, he had all kinds of stitches in his head, and but he just kept rolling. I mean, he didn't slow down. That didn't stop him from doing anything. So, he was and he would call me every so often when I came back to the States, and he was. I think he still might be there.
Still in Japan.
Yeah. I mean, he's probably been there for 20 years. I mean, after he figured out the system, and it was entertaining to him, he just kept. I mean, why not? You're making good money. You've always got somebody interested in you. I mean, jeez, and he was having a great time. So, I miss guys like that. I miss that guy. He was really, funny, and he used to call me about every year or so. And it used to be, of course, like 4 a.m. when he called. So keeping the tradition alive. Yeah.
I think that's a good note to end on.
Yeah.
I'd like to wrap things up now. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Anything that you'd like to say?
Oh, I'll probably think about something, when I go home. But at this point,
all right. Well, that's it for today. Drop a like, smash that subscribe button. Tune in next time for another bout of fun stories from ordinary people. Here on the Oral Tradition, we believe that everyone has a story to tell, and if you think you have a worthy story to tell, comment below. Thanks for watching, and catch you next time.